Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our final day of the MENA winter webinars. I see the hearts already. I love it. Amazing. We like to see lots of emojis. We like to see lots of engagement in that chat box. Share your thoughts, share your feelings, share with us where you are, share with us anything you want, anything you wish. We were just talking about my daughter, so we can share that as well. About to turn 9 months old, so you can see the sleepy face that's awake for a lot of the nights. So this week we have had our MENA winter webinars. Hopefully you came on day 1 and day 2 and you enjoyed the wonderful sessions by Noor, Yahya, Mohammed and Bara. And on our final day, we are welcomed by 2 more wonderful educators based right here in the Middle East and North Africa. And they are DALIA, who is with us at the moment, and HUMA, who's going to be joining us shortly. DALIA is based in Egypt, and HUMA is based here with me in Dubai, in the UAE. So for those of you who don't know me, if this is your first time joining us, my name is Nathan Waller, and I am one of the teacher trainers for Macmillan Education, based in Dubai and covering the Middle East and North Africa. And today, we are going to be looking at making learning active, getting students out of their chairs, getting them eyes up, getting them engaged with the lesson, with the teacher, engaged with the materials, engaged with the assessment, engaged in anything, getting them active, activating their brains and hopefully activating their little fingers as well, maybe if they're small. And then Huma's going to be delivering a really interesting session looking at how we can utilize L1, especially for lower level students, how we can make classes more inclusive. So before I introduce our first speaker, of course, there are certificates. We get loads of messages in the chat box asking about the certificates. They will come out hopefully next week. There are 3 webinars and there are hundreds of people registering and attending. So by the time I filter through all of the registrations and the attendance, but bear with me, I will get the certificates out hopefully next week before I go to Egypt for the Nile TESOL conference, which is next weekend. Fingers crossed I can get it done before I leave, but if not, I will do it when I get back, as I have a free week once I return from Egypt. So bear with me, they will as soon as I possibly can get them to you. Again, if you're just joining us for the first time, this is brought to you by the MENA PD Academy, our professional development academy by Macmillan Education MENA, which is our free to access professional development platform. We have a website, which I can put into the chat box. Trying to type and talk at the same time. There you go. Easy peasy. You can go to that and see anything that we have going on. You can subscribe. We have a newsletter that tells you each month what activities we have going on, whether it's face-to-face activities in your country or whether it's online activities like this one, or whether it's self-access materials or maybe some training resources. You might find them in the website as well. I've seen loads of people registering and subscribing over the last couple of days because I get little email notifications and they've been flying through as the webinars have been going. So I know you've all been going and looking at those materials as well. We're building that slowly. And these recordings can go into that website as well. So if you missed Monday and Tuesday, or maybe you need to leave early today, don't worry, we will put the recordings there so you can go through them in your own time. And we'll put a link on there so you can download a certificate if you watch it as well. So you don't need to worry about that either. Talking of professional development activities, the next one after today, because this is the end of our MENA webinar program, we've got the global webinar program coming up. The Global Teachers Festival is probably one of the biggest ELT activities there is, I think now. Judging by how many people I saw there last year, I would say it's probably one of the biggest. And that's happening from the 10th to the 21st of February. So it's 2 full weeks. And the topics, I mean, they cover everything within ELT. You've got well-being, you've got skills, you've got critical thinking, you've got inclusivity, you've got, I mean, anything you can possibly think of, I'm sure will be covered in that festival. So I will put the link again into the chat box for that, so you can explore the program and you can register for learnenglish.com/GTF. We try and make it as simple as possible. That's the website. You can go and explore. You can register for all 10 days, or you can pick a topic or a day that interests you most, a speaker that maybe you like, and you can register for any of the days. You only need to register once for the festival. You actually have little tick boxes for each of the days. So it's nice and easy to register. You haven't got to put your details into 25 different forms. Just register once and you can watch whatever it is that interests you and your professional development the most. Cool. So let's get straight down to our first session. And I would like to, of course, welcome DALIA ASHRAH. She is joining us from Alexandria, beautiful city on the coast in the north of Egypt, which I've been to many, many, many times. Wonderful place to visit. Different in winter and in summer. In the winter, it can be very cold. And in the summer, it can be nice, a beach destination, I think we would say, in the summer. But as for Dalia is a teacher and a trainer. She is the Senior Academic Coordinator at Pharos University in Alexandria, which is PUA, if you know that. She's trained both pre-service and in-service teachers in various contexts and has experience teaching different age groups in multicultural settings. Oh, we're going to have to find out a bit more about that. What are these multicultural settings? And she also has expertise in testing and assessment as well. Maybe you're going to have to tell us, what are these multicultural settings? Where have you been? Have you taught in other countries?
No, but online classes. Online classes with different, different people from different cultures. Yes.
No. And how do you think that affects, like, the way teachers approach the training?
I think teachers should be aware of the topics they're discussing, and I always feel that students are always interested in discussing topics related to their cultures and things like food, wedding traditions. So it's always nice to share some ideas about different cultures in this class. So I think these classes always promote speaking. Am I breaking?
Yeah, nice. Okay, so, a little bit, but it's okay. We're following. So yeah, okay. So people like to if you use their topic, their culture as a topic, they like to share because they're passionate about the things that mean stuff to them. I'm only asking because I saw Huma is there in the chat box, so she's with us, and that actually relates, I think, quite a lot to her session. This idea of what is their first language and how do we utilize that in the classroom. So I think there's going to be a lot of kind of crossover, I think, between yours and hers. So yes, so this first session, everybody, is going to be about language in actions. And Dalia, I'm going to pass across to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share yours. I will monitor the Q&A. If anybody has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A, or you can use the chat box, as we mentioned. The more active you are, the more fun the session can be. And I will monitor the chat box as well. And if we have any questions, we'll have a little discussion.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for joining. I do appreciate it. So before we get started, I would like you to tell me in the chat box, what was the last thing you ate or drank? Could be. So for me, for example, I had some nuts and a coffee. What about you? Coffee, cookies, chocolates. Wow. Tea. Rice. Only rice? Apple. So all of you are healthy, guys. Okay, great. No junk food in the chat box. Some coffee after a meal. Nice. Lovely. Yeah, tea drinkers. Yes, lots of tea drinkers here. And lots of fresh, healthy snacks. Well, so let's get started. As you see from the name of the session, we're talking about language in action. So let's see how we can engage our students more in our sessions. But before we get started, I would like to ask you a question. How often do you teach grammar and vocab items to your students? And how frequently do they use these items in their speaking or writing? Do you always find it challenging to encourage your students to use these items? or they just always depend on what they already have from their previous knowledge? Okay, grammar once a week. Great. Lovely. So it seems that we teach grammar like yeah, great, once or twice. So how often do you think your students use these grammar items or use these vocab items? Do they really use them? Just need to put grammar in context. Of course, Sahar, thank you very much. Great. 50% in real life, not always, to be honest. Okay. It does take, yes, some time. I agree with you, yes. Good. So today we will focus on some practical activities that are easily designed, and they're just like 0-minute preparation activities that will help you put language into practice. So before we move to the activities, let's see what we will focus on today. Let me share my screen. So today we will focus on the importance of integrating practice into language lessons, and I will give you some examples of practice activities that can focus on specific vocab and grammar items. This session is just like for different levels, so you can adapt it plus or minus level. Let's first focus on the importance of integrating practice into language lessons. Can you tell me why it's important? Why do you think it's important to integrate practice into language lessons? Hi, Siham. To communicate, to use it. Yes, I agree. Great. Production is a key, of course. Lovely. Correct. Yes. Benefit from using it in authentic or semi-authentic way. Yeah, lots of very good ideas in the chat box. To be honest, there are lots of reasons why practice is important, but today I will just focus on two main things. The first one is active engagement, which almost what you've said in the chat box. So when you engage your students in practice tasks, this helps them transform from passive learners to active ones, which enhances motivation and interest in the language itself. Also, as most of you said, that it helps them or gives them kind of like real world application, as the practice allows students to use language in context as it mirrors real life situations. Let's see here. Great, lovely. Okay, so let's move to some effective examples of these activities. Can I just ask you something? Could you all make sure that you have a pen and a piece of paper with you? Just confirm in the chat box. I forgot to ask you about it at the very beginning of the session. Could you just confirm that you have a piece of paper and a pen? Yes, Nadia, to reinforce learners' skills. Exactly. Great. Yes, you all have it. Lovely. So let's get started with the first one. My one of go-to, because teaching is a very hectic job and we're always busy. So this is one of my go-to activities when I don't have time to prepare for a nice activity. So this one is really nice, and you will always be impressed at how creative your students are. After teaching set of vocab items, just ask your students to guess what's in between. And you can always modify the beginning, the starter, and the end. So let's assume that I taught you today this set of idioms. Okay, so today that was our target language. Can you see this? So what you do is that you give your students the first part and a word. They have to guess what's in between using these, or using the set of the vocab. In order not to make it very complicated to your students, you can just tell them, use at least 4 of what we've covered today. And always make sure that you give them the set in front of them, because because it helps them remember what words they have studied. So let's assume that this is what we've covered today. And I will give you now maybe 5 minutes. Try to guess what's in between. Something that started with yesterday, Kate, and ends with the word office. Could be a story, but you have to put these idioms in between. I will give you maybe 5 minutes to try this on your own. And I'll be glad if you can just like send it in the chat box if you can. If you can't, no problem. That's nice. That's nice, Sada. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Yes, but it should be a full story, something that gives meaning. And you have to use at least 3 to 4 of the idioms. This is what you will tell you to your students. And what I usually do is that I put students, if it's an online class, I put students in breakout rooms and I ask them to think together. This should not, in a real class, it should not take less than 20 minutes. So you ask them to guess together, create a story together. And in a real class, you just split the class into groups and you monitor and assist when needed. In online class, you can just turn your camera and mic off and also monitor the breakout rooms. Can you tell me in the chat box how we can modify this task to suit maybe a level of a lower level class? Because this is from my upper intermediate class. Can we use it with elementary or upper or pre-intermediate? How can we do this, Mahinur? Exactly. It depends on the target language. It depends on the item. Yes. Oh, Sahar, thank you very much. Yes, you did a very good job. Nice. You wrote a mini story. This is very nice. In a simpler way. Yes, exactly. So just always bear in mind the starter that you use and the end. Make it very simple to your students and give them the target language. Give them the set of words that you've covered. Oh, some people here. Nice. Advised her later. Nice. Great. Let me show you an example of my students' production. As you see here, has got some mistakes, but it is something. That's a good production. So here you push the students to use the target language in a meaningful context. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Lovely. Nice, Monia. Nice. Great. Another thing that I always go to is when I teach grammar lessons, sometimes I feel like my students still... No problem. Thank you very much, Monia. So something else that I always use with my grammar lessons, and also you can use it with your grammar lessons, is the silent movies. You can just like, what I do is that I go to the YouTube and I write silent cartoon movies, short, there are lots of short movies, and I choose any video and I ask my students to watch the movie and start writing the story or the script of the movie based on what they see, so they can interpret it in a different way using the target language. So let's say that I today taught you the difference between the past simple and the past continuous. And this is a movie that I will play to you as my students, and I will ask them to watch it and write down a story. This can be done individually or in groups. Let's see part of the movie to get the idea of it and try to write a couple of lines if you can. The target language is past simple versus past continuous, and we're done with the controlled practice. So as you see, this is a very easy way, and it takes you like 5 minutes preparation. What you do is just that, as I told you, you Google, you go to the YouTube and watch some, try to find any silent movie. I can send you also the link in the chat box for this one. The only thing you need to do is just to watch the movie carefully, check that it's appropriate to your students, check that it's also appropriate to their level. Silent cartoons or movie. Yes, it's in the chat box. I think you can all now find it. If you've got any questions, I think, yes. If you've got any questions, there is a Q&A box. You can always ask, drop your questions there. How can we use this, the idea of silent movies in the class with other language lessons, not necessarily with grammar? Can we use it with vocab? Exactly, yes. We can also use it with vocab items, because I tried it with my students. Especially, it's fun, especially for intermediate and upper intermediate class. When you force them, when you push them to use the vocab items that you've taught while watching, it's so much fun, and they will be so creative just to tailor using the vocab, using, yes, linking words as well to describe the scene. Lovely, yes. And by the way, it elicits very good amount of talk, because they don't necessarily have to write. You can just send them to watch together in breakout rooms if it's an online class, and then they start talking together. You will also find different ideas from them, because again, it depends on how each one interprets it. Let's see another task that you can do, simple activity. One thing that do you still have the pen and the paper? Great. What we will do now is that you will listen to draw. Listen to me carefully and draw what you listen to. You are my elementary class now, okay? So I would like you now to draw a circle. A circle with 3 eyes. Now add 1 hand and 1 big nose. Add 1 big mouth. And draw 6 legs. Now add 7 ears. And a slice of, and a pizza slice to the hand. Also add a cup of milk, a glass of milk. So what I do with my elementary class, after teaching them numbers, shapes, body parts, I do this task with them. And after that, I give them a chance to describe their drawings to each other. This is a very fun way. And I will show you now an example of my students' drawings. And you, by the way, you will find some mistakes here. So as you see, I said 6 legs, but this student decided to draw 5. So this is something that you can comment on in a nice and decent way. Give them a chance to share their drawings to get together. And if it's an online class, you can make it simple for the students. You can just ask them to take a picture of their phone using their phones and send it in the chat box, or they can just show it to you in the camera like that. Do you think this is a useful way of practicing vocab. What else other than numbers you can use this activity with? Body parts, exactly. Shapes, lovely. You can also use it to teach colors, because you can ask them to color. For example, you can give them the monster or whatever the shape is, and after that you ask them, like, color the eyes red. Yeah, some ideas here. Describing and using adjectives. Marwa, how would you use the adjectives here in this activity, because they're drawing? Can you clarify this? Vocab related to vacations. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Big and small. Lovely. Great. Yes, big head, red nose. Lovely. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Great. That's a very nice idea. Great. So we can use it with shapes, numbers, colors, body parts, and sometimes with animals if you want to. Rate the colors if they're going to color their drawings, yes. And feelings, of course, yeah. It's fun and it does not drain you in the preparation stage. Good. Something else that you can use with your students is the mystery road. And here you just give them 2 words, but both words have to have the same number of letters. And what they have to do is that they just change 1 letter at a time until they have reached the destination. Let's see if you can do it as well. So my first word for you is, and every time it has to be an English word, by the way. So the first word for you is, the starter word for you is, as you see here, live. And the destination is cake. We need to change 1 letter at a time to reach the word cake. So I decided to change the V to F, and now it's life. Still, it's not cake. Try it and see if you know the answer. Put it in the chat box. Like, but still you haven't reached the destination. I can give you maybe a key. It has to go through 8 stations, and you've got 2 stations in front of you here. Live and life. Like lake cake. Lovely. Well done. Well done, Sahar. Well done. Fat is no. Like lake cake. Okay, great. Excellent. Well done, Marina. Good. Great. Good. So that also was one of the suggested answers. This is a nice one for a word level practice. Maybe it could be nice for the revising the vocab that you've covered with your students, especially for lower level students. Let's see. Something else is create a story in the same order of the words. Do you use the word search task with your students? All the workbooks in the world have the word search task. Do you use it with your students, this box? Yes, okay. Also, yes, exactly. Yes, Nathan also suggested something very nice. Put them in pairs, try to make the longest path from start word to finish word. That's a very nice one. Yes, crossroad, you use crossroad and you use the same, the word search. What I do is, I go to any word search generator online, any free word search generator, and I give the word search generator the items that my students have studied, the set of the vocab items, and I ask the word search generator to create for me a word search game. What I do is, not only that they have to find the words, but they have to create a story in the same order of the words. So they found, for example, the first word they found is road. So the first word they have to start their story with is road. And let's assume that this was, by the way, my vocab set: road, bus stop, street light, pavement, crossroad, and traffic lights. So what my students did was that what the students should do is that they create the story in the same order. And this was one of their writings. And as you see, that's an elementary class. So you might see lots of mistakes, but that's fine. Again, you're giving them a good chance to practice using the target language in a meaningful context. By the way, you can also use it for speaking if your students don't like writing, or if they're not into writing. If you're running out of time, you can just ask them to create a story based on what they have found. In the same sequence, so that they can they create the story. You can also ask them to start comparing their stories to each other. Well, so that was the end of it. Thank you very much, and I hope you found it beneficial. Let me know, please, if you've got any questions. Thank you, Amel. We can use both target language and structure taught in the lesson, of course, yes. Thank you, Mahinur. That's my LinkedIn account, and you can also follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you've got any questions, please put the chat box.
Hi, Dalia. I'm back.
Hello.
I'm here with you. How are you doing? Thank you very much. Lots of nice, really practical reflections on like your students' work, and then giving people ideas for classroom activities. So lots of thank yous. People are enjoying the ideas.
Thank you.
Lots of things that they can use. Did anybody have any? If anybody has any questions, I was trying to think. Did I have any?
Thank you, Lucinda. Thank you. Thank you, Nadia.
Have any questions either? Actually, normally I would make a few questions, but I didn't. But I really like the cartoons. I've used those cartoons quite a few times. There's loads. There's so many on YouTube that you can use.
Yes, lots of videos on YouTube. Yes,
and you can use them in all sorts of different ways. I've used them for like inclusivity a lot. There's some really good ones to get your students thinking about developing all those soft skills like empathy and how people feel when they're excluded from groups and classes. I've used in fact I'll write chat box because I'm sure people will look them up. My favorite one is look these up on the present is a really good one.
I sent it in the chat box also. Rida, she's asking for the video.
They seem like very short titles, but if you go to YouTube and just put these in, you'll find. Hip is one about a little dog that goes to a university, and it's very, very cute. And this one, if you want to cry, because this one will make you all cry. So.
Oh. Once you start, by the way, once you just watch one, the YouTube will keep recommending others. Yes.
That's right. So there's a few YouTube videos that you can watch. And again, if you get your students to watch them, there's all sorts of critical thinking tasks that they can do around them. Again, bring that whole idea of emotional engagement into the classroom, ask them how they feel, ask them how you think the characters feel. And again, that's practicing that vocabulary. It's turning it into an active skill rather than just learning vocabulary for the sake of memorizing or for needing it for classroom activities. They're forced to remember old lessons. Oh, we've done vocabulary around emotions, or we've done vocabulary around a certain topic. You're asking them to draw those back out and use them in a meaningful way, which is at the heart of, I think, of that active learning process. Amazing. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, we can get her to answer them later. No problem at all. I'm looking for Huma. If you are with us, you might be in the backstage. If you are, you need to look for a little button at the bottom that says webinar. No rush, because I do have some things that I can share in the meantime. While we're waiting, there she is.
Hi, Huma. Well, thank you very much, and I'll go to the backstage. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dalia. We'll see you again soon. Okay, so before I introduce Huma, who has now joined us on the stage, certificates, of course, will come out as soon as I possibly can get them to you, hopefully next week before I go to Egypt. Again, as if you were a little late joining us today, no problem at all. This is brought to you by the MENA PD Academy, which is our professional development platform. You can scan that QR code, or you can go to the website. If you want to follow along all of the Macmillan education professional development activities, everything is free to access. You can subscribe to a newsletter every month-ish. I send out something just informing you of all the things that are going on. And I add things to that newsletter all the time. I add events that we collaborate with. So, for example, if there are open events, things like face-to-face events like NAL TESOL, which I'm going to next week in Cairo, I will usually put the flyers on there so people can see what's going on around the MENA region. And this is a really busy time of year. TESOL Arabia is coming up. I know that TEFL Kuwait conference is coming up. I know Mohammed was with us on Tuesday. The Educast International Online Conference is coming up in Feb. So subscribe to that newsletter, and then anything we have, I want to have other activities on there as well to get you guys involved and get you guys continuing that professional development journey that you're on. The big one we have coming up in Feb for Macmillan is the Global Teachers Festival. This is from the 10th to the 21st of February. 10 days of activities around all sorts of things. Skills, speaking, critical thinking, well-being is in there. Grammar and writing is in there. What else is in there? The importance of characters and color for young learner teachers is in there. Lots of stuff around the digital world. AI will be in there for sure. And inclusivity and neurodiversity is how we are going to finish off the festival. So you can go to the Macmillan English website, because that's where the registration is. I will put that in the chat box too. English.com/GTF. These actually run a lot more than ours do. So for the winter webinars, we just do one in the evening because we're all in the same time zone. But because this is a global festival, it runs each session runs 3 times a day. So it's 10 a.m. UK time, 2 p.m. UK time, and 9 p.m. UK time. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you will be able to see one of those sessions unless you work an 18-hour day, which I really hope you do not. Hopefully you have some time off during the day you can attend. Or it's all recorded, so you can watch whatever you want. If you go to the website, you can see that now we've simplified the process. You only have to fill in the form once, and you can choose which days are times of those days are the ones that you want to watch. You can register for everything and then pick and choose, or you can just say, I would like to learn about characters and color, and you can just register for day 6 and day 7. Good, Elo, well done. Registered this morning, somebody there. I will be there, of course. I will probably be hosting 1 or 2 of these days, I would have thought. So you'll see my lovely face once again. So before I introduce Huma, I've been dripping in in the middle of these sessions, each day something new. On Monday, I introduced our digital tools and the new AI tools that we have. So I introduced the Me platform, the Navio platform for young learners, and Maya, I introduced her, our AI chat box, and a new product that we have, which is incorporating AI. It's an adult course which will be completely online and AI driven. So it will give students their own individual learning pathway, which is called Pivot, which is coming out towards the end of 2025. On Tuesday, I announced, what did I announce on Tuesday? I think some of the products that we have, some of the young learner products, some of the teen products, and we introduced the conference. And today I wanted to introduce you all to the British Council partnership that Macmillan has. We are an official British Council partner. We're the only publisher that is. And this is to introduce something called Advancing Achievement. So, of course, all of our professional development is advancing learning, but we now have something called Advancing Achievement, which is Macmillan and the British Council joining forces to provide end-to-end solutions for schools. So everything from placement testing through to courses, through to ongoing assessment and final assessment with the British Council is all available in one package for schools. So this is something you might see a little bit more of in the future. And for professional development, we are, of course, the official partner for NILE, which is the Norwich Institute for Language Education. And they run, of course, CELTAs and DELTAs and Masters for professional development. So loads and loads of things that we have going on in our partnerships. But I chose Advancing Achievement because Huma, who is joining us today, works for the British Council. So I thought it was a nice way to introduce you. Let me bring up on my screen, because I've got lots of tabs open. Let me bring up your bio. 1 second. How are you doing, Huma? Nice to see you this evening.
Hello, Nathan, and hello, everybody. Well, it's lovely to meet you and everybody else here today, Nathan.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to have you with us. You are ending our little 1-week festival, so it's a real pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Nathan.
Huma's a certified teacher, teacher educator. She's an e-moderator and an examiner. She's got over 15 years of experience working with the British Council. She is passionate about using everyday objects and physical space in her teaching, which is really nice, a nice approach to teaching, I think. She is also committed to making her classroom more inclusive by activating her learners' languages. She's worked in India and England, and she is now based here in Dubai, same city as me, in the UAE. And what a wonderful time of the year it is here in the UAE. It's beautiful at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a very warm welcome to you, Huma. We met through you applying for the New Voices initiative that was run by the global team in September. And I saw your application and I wanted to get in touch with you because I thought it looked really interesting. And I thought it was something that teachers from this region in particular would be really interested to kind of learn more about. So with that in mind, we are going to be looking at including learners' languages with lower proficiency English classes. So I'm going to stop sharing and I will allow you to share your screen. I will be here in the background. If you need anything, please let me know. I will watch the chat box and the Q&A. And at the end, if you have some time, we'll answer a few questions if there are any. From either.
Thank you so much, Nathan.
Best of luck.
Okay, just give me a moment to share my screen, please.
Take your time.
All right, if you can see my screen, can you say typhoon in the chat? Oh, I can see some thumbs ups coming up. All right, lovely. So, adab, namaste, vanakkam, marhaba, and hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session on including using your learners' languages in your classes. My name is HUMA HASNA RIAZ AHMED. As Nathan introduced, you can call me Huma. I'm going to spend a little bit more time telling you a bit about myself. So in the meantime, could you tell us a hello in your languages in the chat? So let me tell you a bit more about myself. I'm not sure how much the woman in this picture and I are identical. Nevertheless, well, so let's go clockwise. Well, I'm originally from India, and I've been living and working in the UAE for about 6 years now. But my roots trace back to Asia, particularly the Middle East. And I live here with my family, with my husband and my son, as you can see there. And one of my favorite ways to relax is through cooking, which is another way for me to explore languages, creativity, and cultures. As Nathan mentioned, I have been with the British Council for about 15 years now, doing a lot of different things that I enjoy doing, but teaching, of course, is my first love. And as you can see, I know 5 different languages with varying levels of proficiency, but that has given me first-hand experience of the power and challenges of navigating multilingualism, which also drives my passion for today's topic. So let's look at the chat and see the hellos that we've got. We've got Marhaba, we've got Alan. Hello, of course, from Nathan. Okay, walaikum assalam. Okay, hola. From Nathan again. Assalamu alaikum, walaikum assalam. Oh, I can't read that. Is that French? Bonjour. That's nice. Oh, there's something else as well. Magandang Gabi Kumusta. Okay, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Lovely. And hello again from Morocco. Salma from Tunisia. Thank you very much and welcome everybody to today's session. So let's begin by understanding your expectations. In the chat, could you tell me one thing you hope to get out of this webinar? My eyes are on the chat. More activities, Isra. Yes, of course. That's the whole point of this webinar. And if I get boring at any time, please feel free to shut me up. More new methods of teaching, Marwa. That's nice. More ideas from Palestine, new teaching style. My students are able to use the language as much as possible. That's very nice to know, Amal. Awareness, yes, indeed. I'm here to raise awareness of a few different things surrounding the use of other languages in our classroom and new techniques. That's nice, Siham, to get fresh ideas to motivate young learners. Why L1 is important to learning English. Not just L1, Nathan, all other languages. So that's something that I'd like to clarify. When I say other languages today, it doesn't mean only L1. It includes all languages in our repertoire. For example, I have 5 different languages that I use for navigating different communicative situations. So when I say languages, I mean all languages that your learners can use and speak, not just their L1. Abdullah says, making the class more engaging, confirming my convictions. I hope I'm able to do that, Monia. Marwa says, because it's the foundation indeed. Making students more excited about learning English. I hope so, Nadia. Monia says, L1 is crucial to L2 learning indeed. That's all right, Nathan. And Isra says, how to let the students be as much active as they can in the classes. Hopefully, Isra. All right, so you got a chance to share your expectations. Well, let's make this an even ground. It's time for my expectations. They're pretty simple. I hope you've got a note-making tool handy so you can record some ideas. And I'm quite keen to learn about your experiences, your thoughts, and your ideas too. So on that note, let's begin by thinking about our experiences and our attitudes. Let's look at some doors. Well, I love doors because they often lead us to something new and interesting, don't they? So I'd like you all to close your eyes for a moment and imagine you return to work on Sunday or Monday next week. And you have 2 doors in front of you at your school or your university. You've got the English-only classroom door, and you've got the all languages friendly classroom door. Which door would you choose? Well, this is a very private reflection activity. So if you want, you can share your choice in the chat box, but you don't have to, really. Okay, I have some ideas here. Isra saying all languages, all languages, all languages. All right, seems like I'm preaching to the choir here. Of course, you're here, which means you are keen on knowing how we can integrate the different languages in the classroom, which is fantastic, which is quite positive and encouraging. Okay, so yes, I mean, I'm here to flip the script on how we see our languages, which means your languages and your learners' languages in the classroom, because through my classroom research, I've found that by opening the door or welcoming all languages in the classroom, we can transform our lessons and make them more dynamic and inclusive for our learners. So, by the end of this session, I hope that you'll walk away with two key insights. One, why should we embrace our learners as languages? And two, how we can integrate them effectively in our classroom. So let's answer the first question, which is why. Well, so let's look at some key research. I'm sure you've heard of the CFR, which is the Common Framework of Reference for Languages, which is the international body for defining language ability. So according to the CFR and according to the British Council's Future of English report, which was published in 2023, mid-2023, as teachers, we need to be making space for multiple languages in the classroom to aid learning, which means we need to move beyond the monolingual approach that most of us might be following in our lessons. Now, to action this, the British Council also conducted a global survey to find out their students' attitudes and beliefs towards using their own languages in the classroom. So we got the parents of young learners and adult learners to complete this survey for us. And what did we find? Well, parents, so about 50% of the respondents, both parents of young learners and adult learners, especially at lower levels, confirm that English only instruction is not suitable, especially at lower proficiency levels in the classroom. To action this, the British Council made a very bold move. We've published an internal statement of approach on the use of learners as languages for teaching and learning at the British Council. So this is an internal statement for people like me, for teachers and trainers at the British Council, encouraging us to welcome all languages in the classroom. So that was about the CFR and the British Council. Well, there's another key finding that I'd like to share with you, that the research of the last couple of decades has proved that there is no absolute link between the exclusion of home languages and English language proficiency in the classroom, which means no research has been able to prove that excluding other languages can improve target language proficiency. And this is the key, this is the starting point for teachers to challenge their own beliefs about English only classrooms. So we looked at what other key authorities have to say about using other languages. Let's move on to my research. Well, I conducted research with adult learners at the elementary level at the British Council, so basically low proficiency learners. About 40 to 45 students participated in this research, and this was a multilingual class. I had 9 different languages in my classroom. So let's see what I've learned from my research. Now, I'm sure all of you must have heard of Emily Bryson. She's also doing a session for Macmillan on Macmillan's Global Teachers' Festival Day. So this is a sketch note that Emily kindly has made for about one of my webinars on multilingualism. These are some of the reasons why we should be embracing our learners' languages in the classroom. So we're going to play a game called the fastest finger first. As you can see, there are some pictures here accompanied by some blanks. I'm going to name one of them and you have to give me the answer. So the first answer in the chat box earns a point. I hope you're ready. Are you? Okay, yes, I've got a yes from Marwa. So let's go. So number one, so it's important for us to embrace our learners' languages for embracing their ait and ka. So what's number one? What do you think? That's right, Monia. Identity and that's right, Monia. That's right. You get a point there, Monia. It's identity and culture. As we all know, languages are an important part of who we are. They are integral to our identity, culture, personality, and emotions. So it's only logical that all languages are treated equally in our classroom. Let's go to number 5 now. So I have found that integrating my learners' languages has helped me build blank between myself and my students. So what's number 5? That's right, Lucinda, you get a point there. So building bridges between us and our learners because you get to understand each other's culture through each other's language or languages. Let's go to number 2, DELT. Well, this is about dismantling the linguistic hierarchies in the classroom for promoting equality and equity. So what's number 2 there? Deliver, develop. Well, it's about treating all languages equally in the classroom. So there's no one important language. Okay, Fatima, you that was close. Well, so that's to decolonize ELT. And what's number 3? I think that's a giveaway. Tackle speakerism. That's right, Marwa. You get a point there, native speakerism. So again, like I said, I think it's important to treat all languages equally so we can decolonize ELT and tackle native speakerism. So learners and all stakeholders, including parents, are able to recognize teachers and the different languages that are in the classroom as important and valuable and equal. Let's go to number 4. What do you think is number 4? That's right, Charles, for inclusivity, indeed. What do you think is number 4? Okay, you're close, yes. My name's part of the word. That's right, Monio. Get a point again. Well, to humanize ELT. Well, as we all know, there's a growth in the influx of immigrant students and refugees in all our classrooms because of the current world context. So I think it's important for us to embrace multilingualism because according to UNESCO's Global Monitoring Report, multilingualism helps these immigrant students and refugees feel more valued and included, and it also eases their integration into the new society. So those are some of the broader reasons why we should be integrating or including our learners as languages into the classroom. There's a number 6 there, so that is tied to my research. So what percentage of my students do you think found their own languages useful for learning? Okay, Monia says 65%. Let's see what others have to say. 190. Okay, you were close there, Rana. About 80% of my students who participated in the research found their languages useful. And of course, I had those 20% who wanted to use only English in the classroom, which is perfectly okay because we are not propagating or the absolute use of other languages in the classroom. I'm here to say that learners' languages are part of the toolkit that teachers and learners have. And learners should have a choice to actually make use of the tool for learning. Okay, so let's move on. So we know a little bit about why we should be embracing our learners as languages. Now, let's think about why as teachers we might be hesitant to use other languages. Yes, we got all this data, we got research smiling at us, telling that other languages are useful for learning English. But still, why are we as teachers hesitant to use other languages? So what are some of those reasons? Could you share your thoughts in the chat? Yes, I mean, you could have multilingual classes, Rana, and other students might not understand. Saida says, I always switch to Arabic in order to make learning easy for the students who haven't achieved fluency in their English speaking skills, so I've never hesitated. That's so good to know, Saida. Sahar says old learning and teaching theories. Absolutely, Sahar. That's the starting point for us. I think as teachers, especially English teachers, we've all been trained and conditioned to believe that an English only classroom is the most effective classroom. So it's perhaps time that we challenge our own beliefs. Monia says, accused of incompetence. Indeed, yes. For a very long time, learners' languages were seen as a skeleton in the cupboard, and teachers like you and me who resorted to the use of their languages were seen as incompetent, which isn't the case anymore. So that's good news. Marwa says, not hesitant to use other languages. Well, the other situation could be that many of us today teach in multilingual classrooms, so we may not speak all of our learners' languages and might find it difficult or uneasy or might be scared of using other languages. But please don't worry, because like I said, there are at any given time, there are about anywhere between 2 and 9 different languages in my class here in Dubai, but I was able to integrate those languages in my classroom, and we'll see how soon. Yes, indeed, I understand, Lucia. I think the other important reason is that most course books and resources that are available to us in the wider world, they are designed with the English only philosophy in mind, which means that they do not offer guidance or activities to teachers, and therefore they leave us without tools for integrating other languages in the classroom. So that can be one of the barrier as well. And again, some of you talked about expectations. So we are surrounded by expectations as teachers. Rather, we are practically drowning in expectations, parent expectations students may have, and they all might want us to use only English in the classroom. And of course, the institutional or the school policy that might restrict the use of other languages. Well, good news is, I'm here to help us overcome these barriers, and to show how we can bring in other languages without violating any policy and without compromising the learning outcomes or your lesson aims. So let's look at how we can actually welcome or include other languages in our classroom. So I'm not trained in actually bringing different languages into my classroom. So I buried myself in the research of last 10 to 15 years. And what I discovered was pedagogical translanguaging. Well, if you're like me, please don't worry. I mean, it's nothing complicated. It simply refers to the planned and principled use of different languages in the classroom. Of course, if you share languages with your learners, so if you speak Arabic and if your learners also speak Arabic, then the sky's the limit, which means there are also those spontaneous moments where you can exploit the use of other languages. But if you're like me and if you're in a multilingual classroom where you don't share languages with your learners, then we may not be able to leave things to chance. So it's useful to strategize, to incorporate other languages in a more principled way. So let's see how we can do that. There are three strategies, or there are three simple S's that we're going to look at today. How we can set expectations around the use of different languages in the classroom, how we can scaffold learning using other languages, and how we can strategize the use of learners' languages in our lessons. So let's begin and let's look at setting expectations. And the first thing we need to know for that is, who are our learners? So who are your learners? Well, are they monolingual, bilingual, multilingual, or plurilingual? I'm sure the first three are self-explanatory. Plurilingual is when you can speak different languages and you're able to blend them. You're able to mix them effectively in any given context. So that is plurilingualism. So multilingualism is knowing different languages and using them separately in different contexts. Plurilingualism is being able to draw from different languages in any one given context for successful communication. So who are your learners? So what are they? Monolingual, bilingual, multilingual, or plurilingual? Can you please tell us in the chat? Saida says monolingual. Monolingual, multilingual, monolingual. 80% of them are bilingual, multilingual, um, multilingual, monolingual. Interesting. Well, so there's a mix there. Well, so the next question that we need to ask ourselves is, who are we as teachers? So, do you have full knowledge of your students' languages, working knowledge, or zero or little knowledge? So, if you ask me, well, you'll find me at the bottom of this pyramid. Like I've said before, I do not share languages with my learners because I've got very multilingual classes here in Dubai in the UAE. Charles says little knowledge. Siham says little knowledge. Well, we are in the same boat, Charles and Siham. So don't worry. Saida says working knowledge. Well, that's a good starting point, Saida. So anybody with full knowledge of your students' languages? Monia, full knowledge. Well, that's fantastic, Monia. So, which means that you've got a lot of opportunities to explore the use of your learners' languages and yours in the classroom. Full. Mariam says full. Philistine says little. Monia says full. That's amazing. Well, so this is important for planning lessons and for understanding how you can actually incorporate different languages in your lessons. So now one of the key worries that we all have as teachers is the overuse of other languages. So we need to balance other languages and L2, that is English, in our lessons. And I think one of the ways to do that is, the first is to give your learners a choice, especially if you teach young adults or older adults. I think it's important to give your learners a choice, and also to agree on acceptable norms. That is, agree on the use of different languages in the classroom. You could have a classroom contract, even a multilingual classroom contract, to decide how you would be using the different languages for teaching and learning English in your classroom. So I'm going to share an activity with you that I use for setting boundaries, setting expectations around the use of different languages. It's called Lingo Bingo. I'm sure you all know what a bingo activity is. Can someone tell me in the chat? So what is a bingo activity? Sorry, I'm just checking the time. Yes, so what's a bingo activity? Anybody? So have you played a bingo activity before with your learners? Okay, Nathan, of course, has. Marwa says, I don't know. That's all right, Marwa. No worries. There's always, the first time, yeah? Okay, so I'm going to show you this grid. Now, this is a bingo grid. So when you play the bingo activity, it's usually a grid. You can also use it for revising and reviewing language in the classroom. Now, this is a grid, as you can see. It's a 4x4 grid, and there are some statements here around the use of other languages in the classroom, as you can see. Now, how the game is played is, you give out this bingo card to your students, or students can include their own ideas in this bingo card if you'd like, and they have to mark off boxes that they identify themselves with, or they mark off boxes that they agree with. For example, well, if they agree with this box, then they have to simply mark off, check off this box there. And then, so students do that until they can actually draw a horizontal line, a vertical line, or a diagonal line, and they shout bingo. And then they can actually discuss these ideas with their peers and decide, whether they agree and to what extent they agree with these statements about the use of other languages. So my question for you now is, which of these statements do you think your students would agree with? So imagine if you were to play this bingo game about using other languages in your classroom, perhaps with your secondary or older learners. So which of these statements do you think your learners would agree with? Yes, that's right, Siham. So that's a bingo game, and you can use it for revising vocabulary and grammar, for reviewing vocabulary and grammar. I mean, all sorts of things. So any statements here that your learners might identify themselves with? Okay, Noor says, I know it with numbers. That's lovely, Noor. Yes, are there any statements here that your learners might agree with or you agree with? Okay, Siham says, um, her learners might be happy to use their language to help their peers. Monia says, well, her learners might be happy to hear other languages for understanding difficult concepts or instructions. My pleasure, Najashi. The teacher can use other languages to help us. Yes, the students might welcome that move. Charles says their student might be happy using other languages for helping each other, for explaining some difficult concepts, to connect ideas. Indeed. So if you look at this bingo card, it's not just about the use of other languages. It is also about raising metacognitive awareness. I know it sounds all fancy. It isn't. It's simply helping your learners think about their thinking. So it's going to help learners to think about how they learn outside the classroom and how they use their languages outside the classroom. And they try to connect those learning experiences to how they want to learn using their languages in the classroom. So this is one of my favorite ways of setting boundaries and setting expectations and understanding how my learners want to use their languages in the classroom. So we looked at a little bit, we've learned, a little bit about how we can set expectations. Well, let's move on to scaffolding, supporting learning using other languages in the classroom. And the first step would be to actually promote student well-being. I think the first step is to create a safe environment and a pleasant environment for our students. And we could do that using their languages. For example, you could start your lessons with a short check-ins to understand how your students are feeling at the start of the lesson using their languages. So, can you in the chat box say one word that describes your feeling today? So, how are you feeling today? So, can you express yourself using one word in your language in the chat box and tell us what it means? In your language, in your language. Okay, I can see a lot of words in English. Okay, there's one from Rana. I hope I'm reading that correctly. Marta, which means relaxed. Amor, which means I'm happy. Saida, I hope that's happy too. I think that's happy too. Mathafaz, enthusiastic. Okay, Najashi, I'm not able to read that, but please tell us what that means. Okay, there are lots of different ideas there. Well, so this is one of the ways of checking how, doing a check-in in your learners' languages. And then you can move to the next step where you can help them, to share the English word, or if they're not aware, then maybe you can help them with the English vocabulary. So check in, so you can check how your learners are feeling by asking them to share their feelings in their languages or using emoji or smiley. And then you could move on, to translate those feelings into English. So that's again scaffolding learning, but also promoting student well-being using other languages. The next is journaling. I'm sure you all agree that reflection is such a private activity and it's best done in a language that we are most comfortable using. So why can't our learners keep their journals or maybe some of their portfolio entries in their languages without the added stress of worrying about accuracy and fluency? So I get my learners to keep their journals in multilingual ways, so where they are allowed to use English and their languages to express their feelings. And of course, peer support. You could also help your learners and foster a sense of security and collaboration in the classroom by getting them to work in groups or pairs when they share languages with each other. So these are some of the ways of promoting student well-being by bringing in their own languages in the classroom. So which of these ideas would you like to try out with your learners? Let's check, let's check in, So, which of these ideas would you like to try with your learners in your upcoming lessons? Peer support, indeed. Yes, that can be quite motivating. Journaling. Yes, Said, actually, the journals can also be multimodal, which means you can give your learners the opportunity to incorporate English, their languages, even drawings, pictures. So it doesn't just have to be English, it can be more dynamic, and more inclusive and more fun. That's lovely, Lucinda. That's very nice that you use a doodling journal. And because they are KG1 students, I think they should have this opportunity to bring in their languages too, when they doodle. Soumya says check-ins and peer support. That's lovely. I'm glad that you are thinking about different ways of promoting well-being using other languages. Let's now move on to learning the language. Well, since we talked about well-being and check-ins, let's think about learning and teaching the language. Well, so how can we integrate our learners' languages in our lessons for teaching the language? So here's an example lesson. This is a secondary lesson from one of the British Council secondary course books for lower proficiency learners. And I'm going to quickly walk you through the lesson. As you can see, the lesson is about film genres. So in activity 1, the secondary students will learn the film genres in English. And then they prepare to watch in activity 2, watch a vlog about 2 films. And then they watch the vlog. And then they check their understanding of the vlog through a true or false exercise in exercise 4, activity 4. And finally, they talk about one of the films in the vlogs that they would like to watch. Now, my question for you is, are there any opportunities here for you to integrate your learners' languages? For example, let's look at activity 1. How would you integrate your learners' languages here in activity 1, where you have to teach them about film genres? Yes, my eyes are on the chat. Fantastic, Monia, indeed. Well, so comparing the different languages together. Indeed, but for me, the starting point would be goal setting. Can our learners even set their goals in English and other languages at the beginning of the lesson? Why not? I mean, it is possible. And yes, I mean, I agree with all of you. So you could get your learners to look at these pictures, for example, and brainstorm what these genres are in their language. You could also do a mingle activity. Well, so I usually have flashcards where they have to mingle and check what these genres are in their languages, if they share languages, or even peer teach each other in different languages before they compare those with English. What about the listening activity? So then they're going to prepare to watch a vlog about 2 films. Oh, there are some very nice ideas in the chat saying translation. Indeed. Now, I know as teachers, we shy away from translation, but it's a very important and it's a useful tool for in the classroom and outside the classroom for learning any new language. For instance, I don't think I would have learned, the different languages that I know without, falling back on the languages that I already knew or without using translation. Philistine says drama or animation. Yes, why not? Indeed. All right, so you can also get your learners to predict or prepare to read and to listen to a text in their languages before they do that in English. And post listening and reading, they could make notes, summarize information using think, pair, share in their languages before they do so in English, because this can build their confidence. This can help them prepare to talk in front of the class. Absolutely, Monia. So discussions can be in their L1 to maximize understanding. That's a very good point. And again, exercise 4, they can check and clarify understanding using their languages, and they can prepare to speak and write in other languages. Imagine, for example, you want your learners to write a paragraph about their recent holiday. So why can't they brainstorm ideas about their recent holiday or produce the first draft in their language before they do so in English? Or perhaps you can even flip the classroom. So before the lesson, writing lesson, you can tell your learners, well, you're going to write a paragraph about your recent holiday tomorrow. So can you brainstorm ideas using your language, using your languages at home today? And tomorrow when you come to class, you can look at, your mind map, well, or your spidergram, and use those ideas to actually, produce your text in English. So yes, I mean, there are so many opportunities for us to bring in other languages without taking away anything from the English language learning experience, because the aim of this webinar today is to drum home the point that using other languages does not affect the English learning outcomes, or doesn't have to affect the English learning outcomes of in our classroom, because the aim is to maximize the target language production and to improve the quantity and the quality of English language production in the classroom, and not to impoverish it. Oh, there's an idea here from Monia. Monia says, I ask them to write in English, and if they don't know a word, they can write in Arabic, and when they go home, they can look it up. Fantastic, Monia. I do that as well. So when my students write a paragraph, for example, my lower proficiency learners, I ask them to write it in English, but like Monia says, I tell them, if you don't know anything, any word, and if you think you're not able to find something on the internet, then just use your language, which means they have their sentences in English, but maybe there are some ideas, there in Arabic, and then they can later look up, Google Translate, or go to AI tools that they have access to, if they have access to, in the classroom for finding out, what those ideas are in English. So yes, that's a very good strategy, Monia. Basically, you're helping your learners negotiate meaning using their languages so they can produce the output in L2. Here's an example from my class. As you can see, this was a lesson about cultural festivals, and my learners had to interview each other about their cultural festivals. So as you can see in column 2, they first brainstorm ideas using their language and went on to expand them using English in the third column. So it's just some example from my lessons. So what are the emotional and social benefits of scaffolding, supporting learning using other languages? Well, so what do you think are the different benefits? Thank you, Saida. So how can these techniques affect our learners emotionally and also socially? What do you think? Absolutely improve their confidence, Myers, create rapport with the teacher and the students. That's a very good point, Saida, and that is what I was trying to get at. Yes, that it fosters a sense of security and helps learners manage anxiety, especially learners with lower proficiency levels, and those who are struggling in the classroom. They are able to make connections, join those wires in their brain, because I hope you all will agree with me. For instance, if you show a picture of a kayak, or something tricky for your learners, or a rafting board or something. Maybe they don't know what this vocabulary is in English, but perhaps they know it in their language, which means that it's going to reduce their anxiety and help them feel more secured in the classroom. So in other words, build connections between their languages and English. So as teachers, we have to facilitate and welcome those connections in the classroom. And like we said before, it helps them also to negotiate meaning and fosters collaboration through peer support and peer teaching. And if you go back to my research, yes, about 75% of my students confirmed that they felt more confident using English because they were able to fall back on their languages for understanding difficult concepts. That's right. It will help them interact more, feel more relaxed and accepting, make them proud of themselves indeed, and enhance inclusivity. Monia, that's an amazing point. It will make them more aware of the similarities and differences between the different languages. Actually, yes. I mean, because quite often as teachers, we are worried about language transfer, aren't we? That that home languages might cause developmental errors in English. But why not use home languages to correct those developmental errors? So I think we have to use reverse psychology here, perhaps turn the table well and see how you can actually compare languages, find out why there are some errors, what are those developmental errors that are caused by home languages, and help your learners correct or address those errors. Amal says more imagination leads to more creativity. Indeed, Amal. So very good, very lovely ideas from all of you. I'm so glad that you're reflecting along these positive lines. So we looked at setting expectations, scaffolding learning. Let's look at strategizing. And now I'm going to get you to move around. Yes, let's go for a walk. I mean, literally for a walk. I mean, you've been sitting around for a while now, so this is a physical activity. I want you to move around in your physical space wherever you are. And I want you to look for examples of information presented in English and other languages. For example, this is a sign from Dubai Metro Station. So I clicked this picture the other day at Dubai Metro Station. If you're watching my video, well, I'm holding another sign here. Sorry. Well, so that says new driver in 2 different languages. I also have a dessert mix box here with me with ingredients listed in 12 different languages and the recipe in 4 different languages. So you have 45 seconds from now to go around and look for information in English and other languages, examples of information, and report those to us in the chat box. The time starts now. Off you go. So I think your kitchen, if you're at home, your kitchen is the best place. You might be able to find something in your kitchen cabinets or perhaps your refrigerator, and maybe your apartment elevator. If you're at work, then maybe your meeting rooms, your office toilets, maybe there are some signs. And if you're on the road, then perhaps some shop name boards, some graffiti, or maybe some signs and other boards. Oh, Rana's already got something for us here. Hand cream in Arabic and English. Saida's got some cream again. Hazeline, yeah. Perfume, well, so perhaps the name of the perfume, assuming in 2 different languages, Arabic and English. Okay, Marwa, we are looking for information in different languages, same information in different languages. So like the example that I have here. So this is a sign that says new driver, but it's in 2 different languages, in English and in Arabic. Okay, maybe there's some chocolate there with ingredients in different languages in Lucinda's refrigerator. Okay, landscape, absolutely, that's right, Mohammed. We are talking about the linguistic landscape here, the languages in our physical world. Amal says we have a sign written in both Arabic and English that says, please take off your shoes before entering our house. That's nice, Amal. We do the same here in my culture too. Saida says there's a moisturizing jelly that says something in 2 different languages. Fantastic. So what can we do with these examples? So imagine that you've got your learners to look for examples of information in different languages in their physical world. So you can again flip the classroom. They can do this before the lesson or even after the lesson as a homework activity. So what can you do with this information in your classroom? Oops, sorry. Okay, there's a sign that says baby on board. Yes, so my question is, what can we do with this information that's in multiple languages? That's nice, Monia. Yes, we can learn vocabulary, so we can compare the use of vocabulary. For example, if you look at Arabic and English here, quite often in Arabic, the adjective follows the noun, but in English, the adjective precedes the noun. So of course you can compare word order, the use of, compound nouns, the use of vocabulary, and of course the use of grammar as well. The rules, yes, indeed. Different phonemes, absolutely. Yes, that's interesting. Yes. So you're talking about vocabulary here. So I have a picture here for you. Well, that's my cat. His name is Joy. So Joy is demonstrating an English idiom for us here. So what is Joy doing in this picture, and what is the English idiom? Can someone tell me? What is Joy doing? So it's an idiom with connected to cats. So what is he doing? What is Joy doing? Oh, that's right, Monia. So what is the idiom? That's right, Nathan. Yes. Oh, Nathan. All right, that's right. Yes, that's a cat nap. So I'd like you to tell me, is there an equivalent of a cat nap in your language? If yes, can you please share that with us in the chat box? So is there a cat nap as an idiom in your language? Okay, Fatima says kailula. Perhaps there is something. Naum al Ghazalan. Okay, I hope I've read that correctly. Please forgive me if I mispronounce something. Tulog. Rowena says Paka Nindo. Charles saying Paka Nindo. Okay, so there are equivalents. So yes, I think you can look at, for example, idioms can be tricky for our learners because the literal expression is different from the meaning. So you can get them to compare, look at the similarities and the differences between languages using bilingual flashcards because they are a great tool. There's something from Amin too, so that's interesting. All right. So, yes, here's another example from my classroom. So, this was a vocabulary wheel, and you can see my learners have included their languages. And again, this was a lesson about teaching grammar, present perfect. And as we all know, there is no present perfect in Arabic per se. I mean, usually use the past. So therefore, my learners answered a question about their holiday, and then they come in their language, and then they compared it with the target language to see how different their language is from English. So these are some examples again from my lower level classes. So we're going to look at a few other multilingual activities. Of course, you can play Pictionary by incorporating other languages. So students draw, the different vocabulary, and they have to guess it in their language before they do that in English. You could also play charades by incorporating other languages and English by mixing different languages. And of course, Dalia talked about word search. So why not, have word search where you can incorporate your learners' languages and English. And please remember, if you look at all these activities, you don't have to do anything fancy or create something new from scratch. Usually it's a matter of only including, another instruction to your list of instructions. So you don't have to create something new overnight or spend ages planning something new. Well, so only another instruction perhaps is going to help you bring in or include your learners' languages. So again, pronunciation is another area where we can bring in our learners' languages. So what sounds are there that are different from or absent, English sounds that are different from or absent in your learners' home languages? So what English sounds are different from or absent in your learners' home languages? Okay, Saida says, okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, indeed, pa and ba, if you look at the dark yes. Wa. All right. So, and if you look at Arabic, I mean, straight away, the popular answer would be pa and ba. So you could play lots of games. You can set up scavenger hunts where students look for words in English starting with P and those in Arabic starting with ba, and they sort them, into pa and ba. You could also have drills, bilingual drills. Well, I want you to do this, on your own, in your own space, wherever you are. So you could have substitution or chain drills. For example, I do this quite often with my learners. I have a pen, I have a bite. And can you continue this in the chat box? I like a word with P in English, and I like ba, a word with ba in Arabic. So you're alternating pa and ba, so students can notice the difference, so they can distinguish the sounds. So can you complete the drill for us? I like pizza. That's nice. And could you give something with ba in Arabic? I like bata. Okay. Burtakal, yes, I gave you an idea. Bata means duck, yeah. Burtakal, yeah. Batikh, yes, batikh, yes. I mean, some names of fruits coming up there. Well, so that's nice. So I have a pen, I have a bite. I like pizza, I like batikh. Well, so it's a you set up or you drill the different sounds by alternating them, in English and in other languages, so your learners can distinguish and see the difference between minimal pairs, basically, and other sounds. Well, so that's another way of drawing out the similarities and differences between languages. Well, so we're looking at translation. I'm just going to be checking time now because I don't want to run over time. It's already been a while now. Nathan, can I continue?
Of course, I'm having a wonderful time. Please take.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. Okay. So again, I mean, I mentioned translation earlier, and as teachers, I see a lot of teachers that I work with shy away from translation. But one of the famous linguists, Deller, has said that it forces noticing in a way that nothing else does. So, which means translation can be another useful tool for incorporating other languages. And one of my favorite activities is bilingual running dictation or dictogloss. Well, I'm sure you all know what a running dictation is. For example, you put a piece of text on the wall or on the table, and students take turns to run to the table or the wall. They read some sentences, go back and share them with their group, and they have to construct the text together. I think students can do this using their languages and English. They can co-create or co-construct the text using English and their languages, and then compare, the language and the cultural differences, any that they can spot. I'm also going to go back to Dalia's idea. She showed some silent videos to us today. So you can also use silent videos. For example, you can play a silent video like Dalia did, and you can get your learners to write subtitles or maybe the conversation in their language. And then they can actually enact it out with the silent videos. You play the silent video and they enact out this conversation in their language along with the silent video. And then they go back and listen to the actual conversation or the text in English and find out the linguistic and the other cultural differences, because videos can be quite exciting, because it's not just the linguistic differences, the language differences that your students might note. They might also note the non-verbal cues, because languages are complex and they also affect your body language and your non-verbal cues. So they might also find those differences through silent videos. So that's another way of incorporating bilingual texts in your classes. Now, one of the concerns teachers might have is, well, how can we make sure that these translations are accurate? Well, I usually give a checklist to my learners to guide these translation activities. So, for example, when students have created the text, they can check their ideas. Are my ideas clear? They have to check the subject, verb, object order, basically the word order. They also have to check if they've translated something word for word, and if they have, is that awkward or is it accurate? Is it meaningful? And have they used the correct tense? So we have to train our learners in using these translation activities if we want them to be effective. My says that they use both, all of these activities. That's interesting. And if you want, you can also give these, you can also use this online translation tool, which is Reverso. It's a very useful tool because sometimes translation from Google can be awkward or humorous because it can be literal translation. But this online tool, Reverso, provides contextual translation. So it's a useful tool to go to, so you can share this with your learners or use it yourself if you don't share languages with your learners. So what are the cognitive benefits of this exercise? So basically, well, again, this aids comprehension. As some of you said, it can help learners remove frustration, manage frustration and anxiety, reduce anxiety, and aid comprehension, and better engage your learners cognitively in your lessons. And it can also provide support to your learners without affecting target language production. Because if you see the ideas that we've discussed today, none of them are going to take anything away from English language practice in your lessons. Perhaps some activities might require some more time, but the end result is maximization of English language practice. So going back to my research again, as you can see, the majority of my learners confirmed that their languages were useful for understanding complex vocabulary and grammar. So that brings us almost to the end of this interaction. So today we've understood why we should be including our learners as languages and how we can do that effectively in our classroom. So what's next? Well, I'd like you to choose one idea from today's session and tell me in the chat which idea from today's webinar you'd like to try with your learners. And also think about adapting materials. Like we know the course books and resources are not designed to welcome other languages. So as teachers, we have to walk that extra mile, that extra step. And I also urge you to share these ideas with your colleagues, to take this conversation to your staff room, because we all play an important role in raising awareness and driving change for making our classrooms more linguistically and culturally inclusive. And to help you do that, well, here are some resources that can be useful. Because frankly, when I embarked on this journey, I struggled. I struggled with finding resources that will help me plan some useful multilingual activities. So these resources inspired me, so I hope they help you too. And if you want, you can take a quick, grab a screenshot of the slide if you'd like to. I'm going to give you a moment and shut my camera there so you can grab a screenshot. The first one, of course, is a British Council publication, and you've got the other two that are quite interesting and engaging and useful as well. And there are also some digital tools that you could use. I already talked about Reverso. You also have Say Hi, which is a communicative tool for using different languages. And this Book Creator, this is a tool for creating stories, multilingual and multimodal stories, where your students can incorporate English, their languages, audio and video. So bookcreator.com is another very useful online tool. So these are some useful digital tools that you can use. So I'm going to leave you with this question today, basically to wrap up. Which door would you choose? Because when you return to your classroom on Sunday or Monday, you have a choice either to embrace and include your learners as languages or to overlook them. Because as teachers, we have a responsibility to create a learning environment where our learners feel safe, valued, and included. And it's also important for us to remember that L1 or our learners as languages aren't just a fallback or a safety net, but important and powerful tools that can make our classrooms more dynamic and more inclusive and fun and engaging. So that brings us to the end of my talk. Here are some references. Thank you very much for coming today. Can you please scan this QR code if you'd like to get some handouts and some material from us? So I've got some British Council lesson plans for incorporating other languages in the classroom, and there's also an infographic from me that summarizes all the ideas that we discussed in this webinar. So you can scan this QR code and fill in this form where you can leave your contact information, and I'll get back to you with the material. I'll also share this form with you in the chat box. It's also in the chat box for you. Thank you very much for coming today. It was a pleasure working with you. You were such a great group to work with because you were so active and engaged. Thank you so much. We can now throw the floor open for questions.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Nathan.
This session was so interesting. I've learned so many things, and I agree with a lot of the comments that are coming through. Super, super interesting, really informative, like so professional the way you've led us through, given us really clear ideas, activities.
Thank you, Nathan.
Like I really, really enjoyed this session. I've learned a few activities actually. I loved that bilingual drill. I've never tried that before, but I think that's really interesting of like switching between the two sounds with the two different languages and the two words. Like that's a really, really lovely activity.
Thank
And
you so much, Nathan.
and one of the things I really love about this webinar is that because you've been so engaging with everybody in the chat box, and again, a huge kudos to everyone who is in the chat box and they're all giving their ideas, is that actually they've been sharing their ideas and they've been sharing activity ideas that they've been using. And I can see little comments saying like, Fatima, there's a wonderful like idea. Well, thanks so much for that. So you're like inspiring everybody to kind of share everything that they're doing on the same topic, which I think is such a lovely way to run a webinar. And
Thank you so much, Nathan.
There are so many interesting things that come out of this. I love the way that you're again, you're not trying to like preach to us like, no, you must do this. All about
Not at all. Yeah, it's a choice that we have. Yes,
exactly. But it's all about complementing their learning, like making it more inclusive, making them feel like they can do it, motivating them by using their strengths, right? What they know and what they bring to the classroom. And you've done it with language, but I guess that's the true with their own experiences as well, right? Asking them how they feel, asking them what they do, what they like. What
indeed,
they don't like.
yes, yeah.
So I loved all of that. Some other things, yeah. Again, I've seen people use emojis when it comes to how they feel, but I love the way that you use their first language to allow them to. That was also really nice. And I was thinking throughout it, you could also use this same concept, the same idea for other I don't want to call it languages, but other forms of communication, because there are lots, right, of ways that we communicate. Sign language,
yeah.
Body language is another. So I think it makes us richer as teachers, but it's also taking our students on this journey towards what you were calling plurilingualism, right?
Yes, indeed.
Be able to blend and see them at the same time and not see English as this where I use it here and other languages that I use in this context. Actually, it can all kind of come together, and I really love that. I think it was really nice.
Yes, actually, Nathan, I'd like to make one final point there, because you talked about code switching, that is mixing languages, because research has proved that it's not a sign of deficiency when we mix languages. It's actually a sign of language sophistication. So to be able to blend languages means that you are able to draw, access the different cognitive resources that you have in your brain and be able to blend them effectively. So yes, I mean, all of us who are multilingual and plurilingual speakers, we blend languages, quite often, and we navigate different communicative situations using the different languages we have, and that's a high order skill, actually. So we don't have to shy away from actually showing off that skill.
Encourage it. Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the last comment I had was that I think about languages in the real world beyond the classroom. Their languages are fluid, right? They're not static. So I think about Dubai as a context. The difference in the 10 years that I've been here, in terms of the amount of English you see in the environment, that might be similar. but now we're starting to see other languages. I see a lot of Russian, for example.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Mandarin. If you go into the mall now, you see Mandarin signs. So
Hmm.
languages, like, depending on how social dynamics work, also are
Yeah.
very fluid. And our students see that, right? They see all these changes going on, and the internet, of course, helps with that a lot. They start to see Korean movies. They start to
Oh,
see.
yeah, of course, Netflix, yes.
So bringing these in and asking them if they watch Korean movies, maybe they know a little bit, and they can again then bring that in. I can see a question. What's the question? I have a question for you.
Yes.
These sessions are recorded. That's absolutely fine if you missed the beginning. We will share the recordings so you can see everything that you missed. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, this inclusivity at a lingual level, I think it's so important. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free.
Um, Sorry, Nathan, sorry to interrupt you. There is a question actually from Abdullah
Okay, did I miss it?
in Q&A.
Hey, okay. Sorry, I got a little late. Uh, okay, so there is sometimes some concern, right, about whether or not
Mm.
one. And in fact, actually, I was talking about the newsletters earlier.
Okay.
I actually put into the newsletter. I like to put in a polarizing question each month, and this month, because I knew yours was coming up, I put
Hmm.
L1 should not be allowed in the classroom. Do you agree or disagree? And then people could put why. And it is a bit polarizing. Lots of people are
Yeah.
saying it can be used to help them understand instructions. It can be helped to make them feel more included. Some of the things that we've mentioned. But a couple of people did say that actually they feel like it can disrupt fluency.
Mm.
Um, I guess what would you, clearly you are very pro all languages. So
Yes.
what would you advise in terms of like helping um, teachers to overcome that initial barrier, maybe of, because it relates to students as well. If students feel like I'm coming to English class, I should only be
Yeah.
used, then that can create a barrier, right? So any tips for how they might get started with that, and maybe more research reading, maybe.
Yes, I mean, that's a good question from Abdullah Khalid there. Thank you, Abdullah, for asking that question. Nathan, I'll answer your question first. Well, I talked about setting expectations and giving learners a choice. So, and if you remember my research, about 20% of my research group didn't want to use their language in the classroom, and they had, the freedom and the space to not do that. So I think that's the starting point. So, like I said, that we are not professing the absolute use of all languages in the classroom. So please give your learners a choice. Well, and research has shown that very young learners are quite receptive to the use of different languages because they're just, learning, new concepts. But if you have secondary students and older learners, that there might be more assistance. And if they don't want to, then they don't have to, because this is just another tool that they have at their disposal. So there's nobody here who's saying, oh, you have to use other languages in the classroom. But equally, we are saying that please don't exclude them from your learning tools in the classroom. So it's important to raise awareness. So, and that's the bingo, activity that I shared. It does that really. So it gets my students to think about, because I teach adult learners. So it gets them to think about how they want to use their languages in the classroom. So I can tailor my teaching, to their expectations. So that's one way of looking at it. Abdullah's question is a little bit different. He's asking about using L1 in advanced and intermediate classes. Again, Abdullah, it depends on the level of your students. In your intermediate and advanced classes, maybe you have mixed abilities, because all classrooms today are mixed ability classrooms. Well, if I can say that, quite categorically. So if you have students, even those classes, who are struggling with perhaps some subject, some academic topic, for example, if you have an IELTS preparatory course, you're teaching an IELTS preparatory course, then some of those reading passages, in the IELTS test can be very difficult for learners of, higher proficiency level too. So there are opportunities, in those situations to actually bring in other languages. Again, if your learners are happy to use their languages to, decipher meaning or to make sense of something in the classroom. So I think it's just a choice that you and your learners have. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to disrupt anything, really, as long as it is done, strategically and in a way that it lends itself to maximizing target language practice.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, really nice answer. And actually, I was thinking, think about intermediate and advanced students. It's very easy for a teacher to assume that because they
Mm,
have a certain level of English, that they
yes.
won't want to use other languages because they should be able to use English, but actually, and then not have that communication. Because a lot of this is about communication, right? Communicating with the students is why you have these activities, like you had the bingo, you had those ways of asking them.
Yeah.
I guess that the higher the level goes, the less we're likely to ask them or communicate about other
Yeah.
languages. Because that's natural, right? We just think they understand English, so I'm going to give them everything in English. So keeping that line of communication open, I guess,
Yes,
is
absolutely. Yes, indeed, because I mean, when you look at lower
yeah,
proficiency levels, I think it's useful to use other languages as training wheels for our learners, and we can withdraw that support as they get better at using the target language. So it doesn't have to be other languages throughout, the learning journey. It is, of course, a very good starting point, can be an important brick, in the foundation of learning when learners are just starting off, especially at lower levels. And as they make progress, then you kind of wean them off that support. So yes, they're useful as training wheels at lower levels.
yeah, amazing. I have one question that I've actually put at the beginning. I was thinking about students. So certainly with younger learners, primary age, maybe even teens, quite often we as adults understand oops, there you are.
Yeah.
Understand you just shifted to a different screen.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We understand the importance, or we value the importance of having multiple languages. Quite often, the younger students, especially ones if like you teach in a school
Mm,
in Saudi Arabia, where they all speak Arabic, and their
yeah.
English class is maybe the only time they learn English. They don't see the value of learning a second language. Have you seen any strategies or any tips if someone teaching in that context to help students to understand the value of multiple languages? Have you ever encountered that? Maybe you haven't. I'm not sure. It's a difficult question.
Well, it is a difficult question, Nathan, because I have worked in multilingual classrooms throughout, my teaching career. I started in India and then moved to England, and then I moved to the UAE. So I've taught in multilingual classrooms, throughout. But I think, I mean, one of the ways would be actually, I think the internet is a good place to go to in that situation, because if you are in a country where the landscape is also screaming only one language, then it might be difficult for students to understand the value of actually getting to know other languages, the value of communicating with people who come from different, parts of the world, from different, physical spaces. So I think internet is a place to go to, because, for example, if you look at video games, for instance, the teenagers play, they are multilingual because there are so many different languages. You can play the game in whichever language you want. So I think perhaps that's one of the ways of incorporating, other languages and showing that, this is a globalized world. It's a global village, and the boundaries have shrunk. And it's important for us to actually appreciate the cultural and the language differences that we all bring, to the society.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe, yeah, like you say, keep it fun and
Yeah,
colorful and show them that it can be just a window into a wider world.
exactly. Into another world. Yes, indeed.
Nice. Huma, thank you so much. I think everybody is really appreciative of all of the tips and the advice and the strategies that you've given us this evening. It was a really interesting and really wonderful webinar.
Thank
Just
you
to
so much, Nathan. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today, for being so active and interactive, and also for staying until the end. So
wrap
thank you
up,
so much.
yeah, a huge thank you, everybody. I realize that it's a Thursday, so for a lot of people, this is the end of the working week.
Yeah, me too.
We've had a long and busy week, and yet you're still here, still engaging with us. It's absolutely fantastic. There will be certificates for the few people that were asking. Maybe you joined a little bit late. They will come out soon. Just bear with us while we prepare them. Don't forget about the Global Teachers Festival that's happening between the 10th and the 21st of February. You can find more information out and register at this website, macmillanenglish.com/GTF. There are 10 days, there are 20 odd sessions covering a variety of topics. You'll find something of interest, I am sure. So go and have an explore and register for anything that you are interested in. And because it is a Thursday evening, that is it from us, and that brings us to the end of our MENA winter webinars. We will look forward to MENA summer sessions when we'll have even more wonderful speakers. One of the things I love about the webinar programs that we're doing at the moment here in MENA is that all of these guys are based here in the Middle East and North Africa. They really understand, I think, the challenges that teachers in this region face, and they all have a wealth of experience. I mean, there are many, many years of experience across all of these wonderful speakers that we've had this week. I've learned a lot over the last 3 or 4 days. I hope you guys have too. And please give us some feedback. There are only 2 or 3 questions. Most of it is, what would you like us to focus on next time? Or would you even like to be a speaker? If you'd like to be a speaker, get in touch. And we're more than happy to kind of talk about your interests and what you might want to present. From me now, I'm going to let you guys take a rest, and I will see you probably on the week of the 10th, if I don't see you at some kind of face-to-face event between now and then. But good luck, as always, with your professional development journeys. We're always here to help. Go to the website, join me on LinkedIn. We're always here to help you. From the Macmillan Education MENA family, to all of you guys, we'll see you guys soon, and best of luck to you and your students. Take care, everybody, and see you all soon.